My name is Chris Maitland, and I am new to the art world. I'm actually a retired union organizer, and I was on the road for 30 years organizing faculty and staff at colleges and universities all over the country. And I always said I was not artistic, and besides, I didn't have time for that stuff. So I, when I retired, I was looking for things to do, and I signed up for memoir writing and did that for a while. But then a friend convinced me to sign up for a collage class at Clark College, taught by Pam Johnson, works here and has been part of the Open Studios. And one of the things she said first is, don't say you're not artistic. You need to learn how to do art, and most people can do that. So she also did work on silencing our critical voice, which comes up when we try to do something creative. That you kind of ignore that or put that to a side. I took several classes, and then we took some at Vancouver Art Space too. And after the class, some of us wanted to continue, so we formed an informal group and were able to meet at the Vancouver Art Space. And the nice thing about that place is she had all of the supplies and the paints and everything. And when we left, she cleaned up the mess. So I must say I got a little spoiled going there. But during that time, I learned different techniques. I took a class in using photos in collage. And then COVID hit, so we had no more in-person, and we had to go online. And we had a small group here. Sue's sitting in the audience. Sue was part of it, and a friend of hers that lived in New York, and another woman here, and we'd meet every other week and just collage together and share ideas. And then another woman that's here, Eileen, gave me weekly lessons in painting with watercolors. So that was very nice. And then I took some classes through the London School of Drawing, which they do Zoom classes. And they did a series called Painting with Scissors. When Matisse could no longer paint, he went into collage work. And so they taught us his techniques. And it was challenging because they would put an image on the screen, an acrobat, a dancer, somebody swimming. And the challenge was to cut the object out of paper and not draw it. We weren't supposed to draw it first. We were just supposed to follow the image and cut it out. Since I didn't know how to draw, that was perfect for me. And I did that for a while. In fact, I had a couple of my collages here in the show at the Cave. One was dancers, and the others was sea life. So then I took online classes with other teachers, and I keep doing kind of group collaging. The nice thing about collaging is it can be a community effort. And I recently found out that there's collage cooperatives all over the country. In fact, Greg runs the collage here, which is part of the Portland Cooperative that includes Vancouver. And they meet online, and they sometimes meet in person. But he holds his here once the third Saturday. Is it second Saturday of each month? So that's another way to kind of get involved community-wise. And the other thing that one of my teachers taught me about collaging is you always have to go through the ugly phase. So if you think it's looking ugly because you laid down the paper and then you paint it over or whatever, just keep going, because you'll get through that ugly phase. And sometimes you don't, and you end up starting over. But it's kind of a nice way to approach the art, that try to finish it and don't assume that it's going to turn out bad. So that brings me to the piece I did here. And this is done with acrylic paint skins. And that's a technique where you use a pouring medium with acrylic paint. You can't use oils and you can't use watercolors with it. And the pouring medium itself does not change the color of the paint. So you mix that, and then you pour it. And we use like the cookie sheets from the dollar store, and you put plastic on them, not a saran wrap or something like that. It has to be a hard plastic like you use for those plastic covers for paper. when you're doing binders and stuff. So lay those out and then pour the paint. And it's poured in layers. And a lot of times I like to start with white and then put other colors on. And you have to be careful not to stir the paint, because if you do, it all turns brown. It mixes and turns brown. So you have to be very, very careful that you don't mix the paint. You let it dry for about a week, peel it up, and then you can cut it into shapes, which I did here in these wings. And I'll pass this around because you can see that the bottom layer was the white, and then the colors came on. And if you pull a palette knife through it, then that gives you the kind of the layers of color will come through without mixing, or you can blow it with a straw. So there you are. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name's Kirk Read. Thanks for coming. When I say that the products of my writing and art making are spells, I worry that it might sound pretentious or fashionable. Everyone is a witch these days. And that's a good thing. That's the liberation we paraded about. Since the Bill Clinton era, the left became much more of an anyone can be anything kind of people. A basketball team where everyone rotates in. Here, have a flag, wave it. It's a vast alphabet and everyone gets a letter. Everyone is a witch and no one is a witch. I don't want to posture like I'm engaging in some sort of esoteric behavior, really laying out the Ouija board on you and summoning spirits in a headscarf, burning the incense stick indoors and whatnot. When I say it's a spell, I really just mean spell in the vernacular of the people I grew up around, where you would sit for a spell, you would shuck corn for a spell, or you would pull weeds for a spell, or you would sit and talk for a spell with the neighbor lady that you'd eventually have to extract yourself from, because Donald Trump, his own self, has more capacity for self-regulation than that neighbor lady. You have to do things for a spell so you can save yourself for the next thing, so you can move on to the next person without offending the person you need to get away from. That was something that surprised me about people who grew up north of Virginia, and also people who did a lot of Al-Anon. They did not seem to have the ability to just drift away from someone. Like, I need to go check on my husband, or I'm going to go see if the host needs anything. Those are things you might say if you are with someone and you need to escape. The Yankees and the Al-Anon people will give considerably more information than this during a social extraction. They are trained to do this. Nowadays, this practice is called setting boundaries, and it is a dark art. If you want to examine esoteric rituals that involve ancestral lineage, to me, setting boundaries is that landscape. In my family, we said no with our backs as we crept off to a far corner of the house. Me to my room, where I would write for hours, making my first collages on notebook covers and covering large walls of my bedroom. I used hundreds of Diet Coke labels peeled from plastic bottles and Scotch tape. Hundreds of gum wrappers, both the foil wrappers as well as the green, yellow, and red wrappers from the standard Wrigley flavors. I did a short-lived ceiling collage of Domino's pizza boxes that my mother rightly deemed a public health menace. And I'm so grateful there was no common language about this thing we call a spectrum, because people just let me do these things in peace. A spell is a duration. There's more to it, but at its core, it's a unit of time. Something you do for a while until you do the next thing. Art spells are the doorway between the last private realm, the human imagination, and the crass, boisterous cafeteria that is culture. These spells are experimental. These spells are frequent. These spells are done by myself in the curated safety of writing and collage groups, which have rehabilitated my ability to walk among the people. Art is bearable because if you do it enough times, you start believing that you will come out of it, that a spell is a spell, but also just for a spell. Thanks.
I'm Chris Briggs. I'm a photographer. I've been doing this on and off since I was in high school, but not really seriously. After high school, Uncle Sam wanted me, so I joined the Navy. I tried to get in as a photographer, but you know how recruiters are, they get more money for certain other jobs, so they talked me into something else. And then after the service, got married. My interest, my hobbies were changed. You know, I started a family when I was young. My daughter was born when I was 21. So, and after I got out of the military, I started playing amateur baseball and did that, until about 10 years ago. On and off, I'd go back to photography, but it wasn't the thing that kept me interested in what was going on. But in 2017, there was an eclipse. I had my camera. I just happened to have a friend who lived in Idaho Falls, Idaho, and the eclipse was going right through there. So I figured, well, let's take the camera, see if we can do something with it. And I just fell in love all over again. And it was just a great experience. Now, not like everybody else here. Well, everybody here does some form of art, but everybody in here is a photographer. Everybody. So, you know, everybody's got one of these they carry around, so they think they know what they're doing. So, as a photographer, I have to go above and beyond what you can do with your phone. Originally started out, you would think I would start out with landscapes. Everybody starts with landscapes. But no, me, it was birds. I love taking pictures of birds. Tons of pictures of birds. And this area, as you know, is a great place for taking pictures of birds. But everybody kind of does that, birds and landscapes. So right now I am at a point where I need to figure out what I'm going to do. As a photographer, since everybody is one, I have to stand out. So right now I'm trying to do something more artistic. Yeah, this hibiscus, it's a red flower. You just kind of go, okay, take a picture of a hibiscus. No, put it in black and white, change it around, make it dark. So that's what I did with this one. So this is this is my third gallery that I've shown in. So I'm just starting this portion of my art. I want to share with others, and this is how I'm doing it. Like I said, I'm trying to get more into the abstract world of art, of photography, and that's what they call intentional camera movements one way, where you take a picture, long exposure, and you move the camera as you're doing it, giving streaks and things like that. Also, I work in my own studio, my garage. Everybody here understands that. So that's where I'm at. I still haven't figured out really where I'm going with this. I do take classes at Clark College. Been doing that for 2.5 years with a wonderful teacher, Sharon O'Keefe. And that's about it. Anybody have?
Hi, my name is Marila Guilliams. I'm an artist here in the Northwest. I mostly work in acrylics and oils, and some pastels are pretty much what my mediums have been. I dabble in other things, a little clay, a little, a little poetry, a little, but this series that I did here was done, it was inspired during the pandemic. And despite all of the sadness and death and everything that was going on inside, outside, it seemed like nature was just larger than life. The flowers were huge, the blooms were huge, the cherry trees and the dogwoods, which was what my inspiration here were, the dogwoods and the cherries, that I would just look like in wonder at what is going on here with these beautiful, I'd never seen, the one in our backyard had never bloomed that way. It looked like it was dying a slow death for the last few years. Now it's like huge and alive, and a plant my husband bought 30 years ago never bloomed until COVID. All of a sudden it's like, hey, we're still here, you know. It was amazing to me. This attempt is basically just to, it's kind of getting away from representational and more of an emotion, a feeling of, like, you know, movement and growth, and we're here. And I found a lot of hope and solace in that during that time. I find that for me, it's how I try to record what I see and how I feel as I'm seeing it, more so than a representational. I like to somewhat give an idea of what it is I'm painting, but I mostly just want to express what this feels like. And that's what I basically did there. And I don't know, do I have time? Can I say a poem?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, this poem against my husband's, it's called Successful Brainwashing. And anyway, in our little hovel in the rice fields in a faraway land of Japan, my parents tell me about Santa Claus. This being sounds wonderful. This can't be true, my mind tells me. There's no such thing as a white bearded man riding around the sky with a big bag of presents that delivers to all the good little boys and girls. But maybe it's true. Like, I go about dreaming of all the magnificent things I deserve for Christmas. Late one night, my parents, my sister, and I climb onto a bus to go into the city. It's so dark outside, except for the lights on the bus. Suddenly, the lights go off. An announcement in Japanese comes over the speaker. All the talking stops on the bus. In the distance, I hear jingling bells. My parents point out the little bus windows. To my shock and amazement, across the sky, all lit up with green and red lights against the black sky, the white bearded man my parents described is flying in a sleigh with reindeer leading the way. Okay, I'm convinced I'll be good forever. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. My name is Leigh Radford. I'm an abstract artist, and have kind of dabbled in a lot of mediums. I've kind of come to discover that I am the most engaged and the most enthusiastic at the beginning of working with a new medium or a new theme or that kind of thing. That problem solving is something that I really, really love. And I kind of like to stay in that place. Sometimes to the point where a lot of my paintings are layering materials over one another and kind of excavating back in. So a lot of times the exposed form or color has been kind of unearthed from underneath either the paint, or I've used drywall mud and some other substances to kind of scruff up the surface of the work. So I've really been intrigued with that. And for that, have kind of jumped around with the types of mediums that I've worked in. These two little studies, this one is a acrylic and oil, and the square piece is in gouache that I had never worked with before. So I wanted to kind of jump in and kind of get familiar with how the paint worked and how it differed from acrylic and oil and other paint mediums. I've been a long-time meditator and have also worked primarily as a graphic designer professionally throughout my career, and have really pulled in my meditation practice into my studio work, where I've really been more intentional over probably about more 5 years or so of really setting my intention so that my time in studio, which is often limited because it's a kind of a side thing, if you will, of pulling in that the work is productive and that I'm enjoying the process throughout that process. I've also more recently started pulling in tarot cards, where I've been pulling cards to either prompt me on color or pulling the meaning of the card and prompting from there. So I've really enjoyed that particular aspect. And it's been interesting for me looking at how my studio practice has informed my graphic design work, and how my graphic design work in some ways gets in the way in my studio practice, because I start getting a little fussy with the composition, or I'm starting to get too, art directing the particular piece and not letting it be kind of loose and free. So that's kind of a constant push-pull that I find in the studio, but it also is an engaging process. So I really enjoy that part. So for the last year or so, I've been kind of working with these really inky blues, these really deep blues, and have been kind of thinking that I needed to kind of get a little bit more away from that and to kind of expand out into some other work. And then I ended up staying up last night to watch the solstice from Stonehenge. It was a live stream. So it started about 11:30 last night, and it was cloudy, so the sun did not come through, but the sky was this most beautiful color of blue, just glowing. It was gorgeous. It was from very dark, and I just kept taking screenshots of the live stream, because I was really just enjoying that beautiful inky blue sky. So that kind of felt like an appropriate pull in to maybe work on a few more paintings for those beautiful blues. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Teri Farendorf. My art business is Rain Dragon Studio. I started it pre-pandemic. Let's put it this way, I took a pottery class in 2019, but with the pandemic, I just dove in because I didn't have any place to go. One of the things I do is I call them luminous fusions, because I felt like I wanted a name that wasn't just a description of the process. So this is alcohol ink paintings. I have 6 of them here. This one, and there are 2 up there and 3 more across the bottom. I really love how flowy they are, almost like clouds or cotton candy. I'm self-taught. So I found out that you use Yupo paper, which is non-absorbent plastic paper, so the inks float on top. And alcohol inks are the inks that are in a Sharpie pen, but you can get them in little drop bottles at art stores. And so you'll put like 90% alcohol, rubbing alcohol or something on, put some drops on to take a straw and blow them around until they dry. So it's just super fun. At any rate, so I just got such a kick out of it. And then I showed my work at a winery, and I thought, oh, I'll make a bunch in wine colors. They'll love them. And of course, I never bought any. Nobody liked them as much as I did, I guess. But that's why a lot of them have the purples and the greens, because I thought, oh, wouldn't that look nice? Like on a wall, 1, 2, 3 different ones that kind of match. So I will pass this around. What I love about this too is that the colors are so vibrant, like jewel tones, and you get this sense of depth with the darker and the lighter shades that just come about by how much of the ink is in one particular spot as you're blowing it around with a straw. So here, I will pass this on. I have 3 different series of works in the show here. I have 12 pieces total. I offered up 12 pieces and they all got accepted, so that was really exciting. The next series I'm going to talk about are my Dudes and Demons. So last year, all I put into the show were 3 Dudes and Demons, and people liked them, so they sold. I have 2 left, so I think I could pass these around. These were inspired because during the pandemic, I live in Portland, North Portland, and I needed to get out of the house because I'm a social person, and the pandemic was really unhappy for me. So so I just went walking, and I went to Hoyt Arboretum, and my goal was to trace every path on the map, including all the little connector paths that aren't on the map. And while I was walking there one day, there was a larch, and there was something small in it, about the size of my 2 fists. And it was a little thing, a little being. And I just, I was so intrigued. I didn't want to get near it. I took some pictures. The next day I went there again. It was still there. So I went up and picked it up and turned it over. And it was resin. It had no name on it, no anything. I put it back where I found it, took a few more pictures, and I thought I could make that out of clay. And so I started making little Dudes and Demons. And I started with dudes. And I feel like they bring humor and lightness, and they're very just fun, and they have their own character. So this is an alien, in case you weren't sure. And on the back of them, this was not on that little thing that I had found, but I like texture a lot. So I started collecting small stamps. And so this alien has all these like little robots and spaceships and stars and moons on his stamping, clouds. And you could see that he's been hollowed out, because this was the style that I started with. And everybody says my teeth are quite nice. So on my little things. So, but then I thought, well, we can't just have little dudes. We got to have something else. So I made demons, and they have more like scales on the back. But I thought we're going to talk about my extruder in a moment. But I had got this extruder, and first I had one where you have to squeeze it. It was really hard on my hands. And I belong to, on Facebook, a bunch of pottery groups. And so I like to see what people post. And somebody said, look, I have this battery operated caulk gun from Home Depot, and it works as a great extruder. And I'm like, bingo! Because if you don't use your tools, they're no good. But if your hands get tired, that means that's not the tool for you. So I got that extruder, and I made a little extrusion about this tall, and I thought, I can make Dudes and Demons out of that. And so I did. So this one has a larger opening. These happen to have little signs inside that say, hello, my name is, in case somebody wants to adopt them, right? So I will send these around. So here, I'll send one. Oh, we'll just hand that up there to Greg or something. Start one that way and right over here. And you'll notice the gray one is heavier because he's carved out. Now, my next series that I have here today, I had my extruder, and I was just thinking about what I could do with it. And I was inspired by jewelry, basically. So you could see the jewelry on here has little rings and stuff. And then this sculpture was very open. And I thought, I can do something with my extruder like this. So we'll start this around if you want to take a look at it. So we have the Luminous Fusions, we have the Dudes and Demons, and these are Moon and Saturn sculptures. So we have the rings, and then we have the little balls, and they're just very fun. And one of the things I love about these sculptures is that with the painting, you have one point of view. It's on the wall, it doesn't move, it's always right there. With these, you could move them around the house. You could say, I want this view today. And every day you could have a different view. And if you don't mind looking at the name of my business, you could probably even put it like that. And then I've been experimenting with different glazes, and this one has a sparkly glitter glaze. And a part of why I decided to start making these, because I wanted to build things taller and bigger, and I had bought this clay called 3-Finger Jagged Architectural, and I'm like, well, let's see how, if I could start stacking things and making them stick. And at any rate, I really think that they're so fun, and I'm enjoying different glazes. I just have to make sure that whatever I have on the bottom doesn't stick to the kiln shelf. So these are just 3 different ones, and they have, like I said, they have different views. If you don't like one view, turn it, something else might appeal to you. So that's it. That's me. I live in Portland, and that's my stuff.
Yeah, so I have nothing prepared. If anybody has any questions, I can answer for you. This piece was done when I told Sharon 19, but as I went back in time, I was 20. And I was taking toll painting at the time. Is anybody familiar with toll painting? Yeah? And I had several kids, and I just needed to get out of the house. And so shared with my husband that he would be taking over at 5 o'clock so that I could go to my toll painting class. And I'm just sharing that, but that was a saving aspect to help me with my sanity as a mother who wanted to be an artist. I first realized I was an artist when I was 4 years old. How many of you knew what an artist was when you were 4? Oh, there we go. So I was getting personal, but I was born with ruptured eardrums, so I didn't have hearing until I was, probably 7 or 8, after several surgeries and adenoids and tonsils. And so, but Mom wanted me out of the house, so off I went. I had an October birthday, so I was only 4 when I started kindergarten. And I'm really not very interested in school. And then my last name was Walker, and you were arranged alphabetically, so I was way back there. So I just sat back there and drew. And my first report card that came home was, all she does is sit back there and draw on the back of it, So I've gotten a little trouble for that, but at the same time, well, the next teacher I had actually was an art connoisseur, so instead of scolding me, she encouraged me, and I just realized that was my thing about that point. And from then on, it served me well. This was my escape. This is more recent kind of work that I do, which is collage. And that's a political piece that was in our politics show. It kind of requires you to get up close and have a look and read. And I try and keep it equal on all sides. I'm trying to think what else I need to share. Does anybody have any questions? Pardon? What does that mean? Here? Yeah. Well, I try not to get off on blathering on one side or the other. I kind of try and show everybody, and most of the time I try and bring out humor. I think that there's depth in humor, and this is pretty strong because this is a police officer, and it says don't shoot, and I feel pretty strongly about guns. I'm really sorry that we have them. I wish we could get rid of them, but that was, I think it reflects, even though it's been 6 years, I think, since I did that, still reflects our times. I'm just curious if anybody has any questions about the gallery. Oh, no, go ahead.
Why is the toilet take up so much space?
Who, the Pope? Or, oh, the toilet. Oh, I think that's self-explanatory. Any other questions? Oddly, nobody's offered to buy it. But... Okay, so yeah, I was dying to have someone ask me that. So I was part of North Bank Gallery. Anybody familiar with that? Okay, yeah. And so I was down here a lot, and I can't even remember why I was walking by here, but I looked in there, and it was just a period of time when I was needing something. And so my son is he's a, what is he, Teri? Developer. By the way, I didn't know I was going to be talking today. And I told him, you know, about this space, and I was really interested. I was interested in developing it as my own art space, and I would paint in here and have my own shows, and pretty, you know, conceited idea. And he mistook me for thinking I wanted to start a new gallery. So off we went with the construction company and all that. And the next thing I know, we're building a gallery. And I think that this space, I kind of believe in magic. I really do. I mean, I think it was waiting here to be discovered. The reason it's called the cave is because at the time, all of the windows were boarded up. So when you came in here, it was dark. And I'd parked across the parking lot over there and was coming across one day, and I looked up and I go, where did those windows come from? And so I get in and see they're all boarded up. So that was the first thing, was I pulled all the boards off the windows, and I thought, oh my gosh, look at this. And it just brings on all this beautiful light. I think it invites people in. And then the flooring, when they tore things up, we discovered, I don't know if anybody realizes this, but from all the way up there down here, and it comes like this, is river rock. Literally river rock. And so we had to find a solution on how to make a floor on top of that. And these panels, believe it or not, were floated on here. But I don't know whether I ever would have chosen this panel if that hadn't come up. And I don't know, to me, a gallery needs to exude light, and that's part of it. So I really felt like there were other powers directing me. It was, so anyway, any other questions? We done? Okay. For me, no more than a week. Yeah, and I've done, you know, pretty large pieces, and I'm with all you collagers. I love to collage, and I love doing layers, and I have no objections doing absolute abstracts. We had a show here recently that was absolute abstracts. I've tried all medias. I was a ceramic artist for quite a few years. Oh, there we go. That's our candy bowl. Help yourself. So, I don't know. Anything else? Did I leave anything out? No?
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for coming. Please feel free to stay as long as you like and mingle and chat with each other.
Thank you.